The mansion breathed silence. Not the peaceful kind. This silence was polished, expensive, and heavy, like it had been trained to never speak out of turn. Chandeliers glowed softly above marble floors, and the city lights outside the floor-to-ceiling windows bowed beneath the height of Ethan Blackwood's empire. Ethan sat alone at the long dining table, his tailored suit still perfect despite the late hour. Another 16-hour day, another billion added to a number that no longer meant anything. The butler had poured his nightly drink, a rare, imported spirit worth more than most people's yearly salary, and left without a word. Ethan lifted the crystal glass. The liquid caught the light like molten gold. That was when the scream shattered everything. "Don't drink it." The sound was raw, desperate, completely out of place in a house where voices were always low and controlled. The glass stopped inches from Ethan's lips. His heart thudded once, harder than it had in years. At the far end of the room stood Rosa, the maid. Small, older, hands shaking so badly she had to grip the edge of a chair to stay standing. Her eyes were wide, wet, fixed on the glass as if it were a loaded gun. "What did you say?" Ethan asked calmly, though something cold slid down his spine. Security moved instantly, hands near their weapons. Rosa flinched. I'm sorry, sir," she stammered. "But please, please don't drink it." The room seemed to tilt. Ethan studied her face. He had passed her 1,000 times without seeing her. Now he noticed the deep lines carved by years of worry, the fear that wasn't acting, the courage it took to speak at all. "Everyone stop," Ethan said. The guards froze. Rosa swallowed hard. "I cleaned the study earlier. I heard voices. They didn't see me." Her breath came in shallow bursts. "They talked about your drink. About how tonight was important." Ethan's fingers tightened around the stem of the glass. "Who?" he asked. She shook her head, tears slipping free. "I don't know who I can name. But I know what I heard. And I know this," she pointed at the glass, "is not safe." For the first time in decades, Ethan Blackwood felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not control, fear. Slowly, carefully, he placed the glass back on the table. And in that moment, the most powerful man in the room was no longer the billionaire, but the maid who dared to speak. The mansion no longer felt safe. Ethan sat at the long marble table, the untouched glass still standing between him and the truth. The maid, Rosa, stood near the doorway, her hands shaking so badly she had to clasp them together. 2 guards hovered behind her, waiting for Ethan's command. "Test it," Ethan said quietly. Minutes later, the head of security returned, his face drained of color. "Sir, it's poisoned. Low dosage. Repeated exposure would cause organ failure. It's designed to look like natural illness." The room tilted. Ethan had faced market crashes, hostile takeovers, and public humiliation, but this was different. This was personal. "Who?" Ethan asked. Rosa inhaled sharply, as if she had been holding her breath for weeks. "Your wife," she said, barely above a whisper. "And Mr. Caldwell." Ethan's fingers curled into his palm. Caldwell, his oldest partner, the man who had helped him build everything. Rosa continued, words spilling out now. "I cleaned the east hallway late at night. I heard them talking. They didn't see me. They said once you were weak enough, the doctors would sign the papers without questions. The company, the money, everything would be theirs." Silence swallowed the room. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Ethan asked, his voice controlled but sharp. Tears welled in her eyes. "Because people like me don't survive accusations like that," she said. "I have children. I have no power. But today I couldn't stay quiet." For the first time, Ethan truly saw her, not as staff, not as background noise, but as a human being standing between him and death. Investigators were called, phones rang, orders were given, yet Ethan barely heard any of it. His thoughts spiraled backward, every late-night drink his wife prepared, every smile Caldwell gave him across the boardroom table. Betrayal replayed itself like a broken film. When everyone finally left the room, Ethan remained seated, staring at the glass. Rosa stood frozen, afraid she had said too much. "You saved my life," Ethan said at last. She shook her head. "No, sir, I only told the truth." Ethan realized then how close he had come, not just to death, but to dying without ever knowing who truly stood beside him. And that knowledge hurt more than any poison ever could. The investigation moved fast. Lawyers arrived before sunrise. Accounts were frozen. Phone calls were recorded. Ethan gave statements with the same precision he once used to dismantle competitors, but something inside him was unraveling. For the first time, power didn't feel like protection. The mansion, once a symbol of control, became a maze of echoes. Every hallway reminded him of how blind he had been. His wife's laughter replayed in his mind, every affectionate word now sounding rehearsed. Caldwell's firm handshakes felt like practiced lies. Ethan stopped sleeping. At night, he sat alone in his study, the poisoned glass locked inside a transparent evidence box. He kept staring at it, as if it might explain how his life had come to this. Doctors told him the poison would have killed him slowly, months of weakness, confusion, dependency. He imagined himself fading while others made decisions in his name. That image terrified him. Then there was Rosa. She continued working quietly, avoiding his gaze, afraid attention might cost her everything. One evening, Ethan stopped her in the hallway. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 22 years, sir." The number hit him harder than any accusation. 22 years, and he had never learned her name until the night she saved his life. He thought of the thousands he had fired with a signature, the families he never saw, the human cost buried under profit reports. "I built my empire by not looking back," Ethan said softly. "By calling it efficiency." Rosa nodded but said nothing. Later that night, Ethan reviewed old files. Lawsuits settled quietly, communities displaced, partners destroyed. He had told himself it was necessary. Now the word tasted bitter. His wife and Caldwell had simply learned from him. He had taught them that loyalty was expendable. The realization hollowed him out. By morning, Ethan made decisions that shocked everyone. He cooperated fully with authorities. He opened internal records. He didn't try to protect his reputation. For the first time in his life, Ethan Blackwood chose truth over control. And as the sun rose over the city he once ruled, he understood something devastatingly clear. The poison hadn't changed him. It had only revealed who he already was. The fall was louder than Ethan expected. News broke before the court doors even opened. Headlines screamed betrayal, conspiracy, and collapse. Investors fled. Board members resigned overnight. The empire that had taken decades to build cracked in a matter of weeks, like glass under too much pressure. Ethan didn't fight it. In court, he listened as evidence unfolded, recordings, messages, financial trails leading straight to his wife and Caldwell. The people who once toasted his success now avoided his gaze. His marriage ended without drama, just silence. She never apologized. She never had to. The truth had already said everything. The company fractured. Billions vanished from his name, numbers erased with the same ease they were once added. Strangely, the loss didn't hurt the way he expected. What hurt was realizing how little of it had ever belonged to him in the first place. The mansion was emptied room by room. Paintings were auctioned, cars sold, walls stripped of their meaning. On the final morning, Ethan walked through the house with a single suitcase. Rosa waited by the door. She held a simple cup of tea, plain ceramic, nothing like the crystal glass that had nearly ended his life. She hesitated, then handed it to him. "This one is safe," she said gently. Ethan took it with both hands. The warmth seeped into his fingers, steady and real. He smiled. Not the polished smile he used for cameras, but something quieter. Something honest. "Thank you," he said, "for more than saving my life." She nodded, eyes shining, and stepped back. Outside, the city looked different from ground level. Louder, messier, alive. Ethan walked away from the gates without guards, without headlines, without armor. For the first time, no one recognized him, and that felt like freedom. He didn't know what came next. Redemption wasn't guaranteed. Forgiveness wasn't owed. But he knew this. Losing everything had stripped him down to what mattered. The scream that once shattered his world had also awakened him. And as Ethan Blackwood disappeared into the crowd, his old life lay in ruins behind him, broken apart so a truer one could finally begin.